What's up, man?
What is up? Hugo Garcia, my boy.
What's up, Jeremiah?
It's good to talk to you.
It is, man. It is. Thank you so much for doing this, man. I super appreciate it. We start the show with a little meditation, if you don't mind. It's just really quick. All you got to do is breathe in love and exhale gratitude. There you go. That's
Nice.
it.
I
I
like
also do a thing where at the end of the show, I get a message or a positive affirmation from you to read to the next guest without knowing who they're going to be. And I'm going to read to you the positive affirmation that was left to you by my previous guest who had no idea it was going to be you, but it would be funny if he knew because he'd probably change his message because he knows you. But anywho, this message is for you. There is nothing heavier than a life filled with songs, truths, and gifts that never made it out. Your gift was never placed inside you to be hidden beneath fear. It was placed there as a doorway, a sacred instruction, a pulse from the infinite asking you to remember why you came to this world. Don't die with the music still inside you.
I like that. That's good. I have a sneaking suspicion who left that now that you read it, but that's cool. I like that. I like that. I'll have to text this individual and tell them they left a good
Nice. So hopefully that resonates with you a little bit.
yeah,
And
definitely.
before we even start, I just want to say, dude, I don't know if I've ever expressed how thankful I am for you. You helped Mariana actually fulfill one of her dreams. As you know, you were very crucial in that part, and I am always going to be thankful for that. But one thing I don't think I ever thanked you for was you were actually there for me a lot without knowing or maybe knowingly when she was going through her whole thing, and I needed some sort of comfort and humor, and I just want to say thank you, man. Like I really appreciate you being there for me, and I cannot repay your kindness, your big heart. I can only wish you many more blessings, and hopefully they multiply for you, and you're just bathed in awesomeness your whole life. Because really, that's how thankful I am for you.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate that, and I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that I've had that impact on you and your fiance. But yeah, so it's also been an honor getting to know you over these years. I mean, you're one of these individuals that is not your normal everyday run into them, and it's kind of like unlikely scenarios we even meet in the first place. But it was so cool that we did because you're such a cool person, and just been getting to know you these last it's been a while now, but it's been a true honor. So the same right back at you, my friend.
Thanks, man. It's almost 5 years, and I forget sometimes how young you are because of your maturity level and your hunger, which we're going to talk about a little bit today. But one of the things I want to know before we jump into things is your journey and how you landed into sports and what was like. Let's start from let's do your comic origin, your origin story for you. Okay, what did you get hit by a radioactive baseball and you just decided I'm gonna be following sports my whole life, or what exactly was it that drove you to get into sports? For those of you that don't know, Jeremiah is a journalist. Jeremiah Salmonson, the journalist,
Yes.
and he is a writer in the Sacramento area, San Fran Bay Area, and he covers a lot of sports. And yeah, man, what exactly got you there to that journey?
Yeah, it's funny because you say like, did I get hit by a baseball? And that's funny because no, I didn't get hit by a baseball, but I might as well have. I often say my first love was baseball. Just as a kid, I didn't really grow up from like a really young age playing sports. It was kind of something my family stumbled into as the kids got older. I'm one of five, so there's a number of brothers that I have, and so like as we were kind of growing up, my parents didn't really play sports much, and so we kind of just stumbled into it as something the kids enjoyed, and so that's how we even like found our way into sports. And so I didn't really start playing till I was a little bit older, the older little league years, stuff like that. But yeah, I really enjoyed playing baseball in particularly. And then came a point in my life where I really wasn't able to play sports. I've had multiple knee surgeries ever since I was about, I forget exactly when the first one was, but I think it was like 12 or 13. And then from then on, I had a couple more. And while, after recoveries and stuff like that, you were cleared to play them. it kind of like took those formative years to actually play sports from me, going into high school basically to really kind of get your skills dialed in before you actually like really get into a competitive level.
Yeah.
And I honestly, if you were to ask me if I'm just thinking back on it, like that's probably a big part of why I got into sports media, why I got into sports journalism. Cause, with the limitations I faced as a young kid with my body and playing sports, I think that like the logical next step was like, well, let me find out if I can talk about him. Like, how else can I consume sports? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that I think has kind of started everything. I started a community radio show talking about baseball, not getting paid back when I think it was 14 at the time. Sometimes the years get a little mixed up. I think it was 14 though, and on
So
the
like last
radio
year,
talking about
basically.
sports. Yeah, I know, right? That's coming from a fairly young man. But yeah, then from there, it kind of just kind of just took off from there.
You said baseball was your first love.
Yeah.
Baseball is a sport that I romanticize now, but it took me until my mid 20s, maybe almost early 30s to really get into it. I credit Philly as the city that introduced stats and actual like the love for the game and understanding how difficult baseball truly is as far as like hitting a little ball at 99, sometimes over 100 miles per hour. What would you say to someone who doesn't understand baseball or thinks it's boring? Like it's always that typical like it's boring.
Yeah.
What would you say? What would you think a good case would be to help convince them that it's not?
Yeah, it's interesting because there's a lot of great sports out there and there's a lot of good American sports, right? Like baseball's uniquely American, American football is uniquely American. And there's a whole lot of sports that aren't uniquely American that are also great, right? Like, soccer or football in other parts of the world, golf, tennis, ice hockey, you name it. But there's just something about baseball and it's almost a little bit hard to describe. My number one thing to anyone who's skeptical about baseball, maybe they saw a game on at their grandfather's house and they're like, this is kind of boring. Or maybe they saw it on at a restaurant or something like that. And like, yeah, I can't get into this. Just go to a game. Get some of your friends, get some of your best friends or a couple of family members, or even go by yourself. I'm crazy enough to go to baseball games by myself sometimes because it's kind of a reprieve. Just go to a baseball game. Chat with your seatmate. If you're by yourself, chat with the seatmate sitting next to you, about their life or baseball. Grab a beer, grab a seltzer, whatever your drink of choice is, a soda, have some peanuts if you're not allergic, right? And just take in the game. And I feel like from that point on, you too will start to romanticize baseball a little bit because it takes place in the outdoors. It starts in the springtime. The weather's turning. You can smell the grass. You can feel the breeze. There's like a very wholesome nature to it. You hear the crack of the bat. Everything is like very authentic in baseball. And so sure, the game might be a little bit slow. And if you don't know all the rules, you might be wondering like, why are they pitching these balls and why are they hitting them and why is he out? Why is he safe? But just go to a game. Baseball fans in general are good people. So a lot of times they're very welcoming to people that are new to baseball. Just go to a game and experience it for yourself. And then I think it's impossible not to romanticize baseball. And then follow that up with a Moneyball watch, and you'll get Brad Pitt will get you romanticizing baseball about as quick as anything else.
So you grew up in the Northern California area. Safe to say you've always been Northern Cali fan for any sport.
Yeah, pretty much. So I grew up an Oakland A's fan, and for hockey, I'm a San Jose Sharks fan. For basketball, I'm a Sacramento Kings fan. So I'm not necessarily too stuck to the Bay Area. I don't know why I fell in love with the Kings when I was young. Like, it couldn't have been the Warriors.
Me neither.
I wish it would have been the Warriors at this point. I mean, just the horrors and the trauma that the Sacramento Kings have put me through as a fan would have been paled in comparison to all these championships with the Warriors. But yeah, so pretty solidly Northern California. But I must say, when the Athletics announced their move to Las Vegas a couple years ago, I told myself I was going to stop being a fan. And I thought I was going to be an Oakland Athletics fan my entire life because much like the game of baseball in general, that team it was my first ever Major League Baseball game I went to when I was younger. I went to this Angels A's game. Albert Pujols was playing for the Angels at the time. Just I don't know what it was about the A's. Maybe the underdog story. They're like the stepchild of the San Francisco Giants, you know?
Yeah.
And I told myself I would never, change my allegiances. But at the end of the day, I was so devastated by what the ownership group for the Athletics decided to do, ripping that team out of the heart of Oakland and shipping it to temporarily Sacramento and then on to Las Vegas in a couple of years, that I like put open like bidding for who my new baseball team was going to be, and it came down to the Padres and the Giants. And it kind of was like, well, I love both. I could really enjoy myself being a fan of both. I chose the Giants just simply so I don't have to get on a plane to go watch my team.
I
And
would never
it's
forgive you if
been,
you're a Padres fan. Giants I can tolerate, but
yeah, yeah. No, there's no love lost between Dodgers and Padres fans. I know that at this point. There's not a lot of love there. So yeah, but mostly Northern California and Bay Area is where I picked my teams.
for sure. So you started a radio show when you were 14. At what point did you say, "This is what I want to make my career," and what did you do to, like, learn what you needed to start? Like, where do you go? Like, if I tell my son, "Hey, like, Jeremiah interviews really cool basketball players, baseball players, football players," like, and he asked me, "Oh, what do I need to do that?" Like, where did you go to find out?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And I think everyone's path looks a little different, right? And I've by no means arrived. Like I'm still learning so much. There's, veterans in this industry that are so much more talented and just are doing much better work than I am. So I'm still learning on my own. So I've by no means arrived. But if I was telling a younger kid or someone in middle school or something like that who loves sports and they want to talk about sports, I would probably tell them, and it's kind of similar to how I did it, just get plugged into the local community where you are, whether that's high school sports, whether that's maybe you have a double A baseball team, or maybe you have a G League basketball team, or maybe there's a WNBA team there, whatever the situation is, find what in your local community exists and then build your connections within your network there locally first. And that's really how I did. I got an opportunity. I applied for a slot at a community radio station. So if you don't, back in the day, community radio stations, you don't get paid. They also don't pay anyone to maybe some staff to run the station. Everything is community based. And so they every once in a while a new slot would open up. And at this time, believe it was like Saturdays at 9 p.m. to 10 or something. There was a slot and I applied. It's almost like an application to a college or an application to a job or whatever. You just apply, you kind of put your best foot forward, and they allowed me to kind of do a pilot and see how it went. And I ended up, being able to host a weekly baseball show on community radio. And I've listened to some of those archives, and they are not kind. I'll tell you that much. Like, at the time you're like, you're 15 or whatever, you're on the radio, you feel like you're doing a good job. And I was doing a good job for a 15-year-old, but it's a tough listen. Some of those are a tough listen, which I think is just a message to, especially for kids these days. Social media wasn't as big as it is now, even when I was a kid, which I know is not that long ago, but you're going to hear so much more negativity and so much noise these days than even I did, because anything you put on Instagram or X or Facebook or Snap or, TikTok or whatever, it's going to be negative comments. It's going to be people telling you to quit, even way more than the pressure I had growing up, which existed, but you didn't have to stare at it on your phone all day, every day. So I would just tell them to try to find people in your community that are willing to help you, because like myself, I wouldn't even be where I am without others helping me and lifting me up in the community, friends, just people willing to give you a shot in general. So meet those people, actually build relationships with them. And from there, who knows where it can lead.
Yeah, that's great advice, and just curious, like, what were like, when I think of what I'm doing even with my life, and, like, my parents ask me, like, "Sorry, I didn't mean to make you."
I'm spitting up over here. That was
It's
funny.
okay. But, like, when
When
your
you said
parent
that.
when you tell your parents, like, "I wanna cover sports," or "This is what I wanna do, mom and dad." Like, how did that conversation go when it comes to, like, how serious it is, the realisticness of like how long it takes to really build credibility and audience and all those things. How did that conversation go? And it sounds like they were probably supportive if you were doing a Saturday 9 to 10 p.m. shift. I mean, I don't know if my parents would have allowed me to do that at that age.
Yeah, so I would definitely say they were supportive, right? I mean, my parents were there was never I was never met, in terms of that venture with any sort of like doubt or you just really I don't know why you even want to try to do that. Like nothing like that. My parents were definitely supportive and like you said for the early part there, they drove me to those shows and picked me up from those shows or my dad sat in the car and listened as I did the show, then we'd leave, an hour later. So they were definitely supportive. I mean, and at that time, it was really a hobby, right? Because I was still in high school or going into high school, finishing high school, still in school. And I think as I got a little bit older, junior, senior in high school, I think there was a little bit of pressure to go to college and just go the more normal, maybe some sort of STEM field or something like that.
Yeah.
But I think that's normal for every kid because your parents want what's best for you, generally speaking. And those are generally the higher income earning fields. And they're like, you know what? Just the kids don't know what they want anyway. So just guide them towards something lucrative, maybe. Right.
Yeah.
And so I think there was a little bit of that, but nothing out of the ordinary. I went to a junior college for a while I was still doing stuff in sports, radio and things like that. But yeah, my parents are very supportive and, I'm very appreciative of them for fostering that love and that ability that I had and those talents that I had when I was young. Because yeah, that they could have definitely been stifled and then you never would have realized them. So I'm very, very thankful for the support I got from them early on.
Yeah, it's great to hear. So you
What
romantic
if I can cut you off real quick? I'm actually
Yes.
curious for you because you have a son, and I'm curious, like as a parent now of a son who's, how do you approach that? Like, is that like where's that balance for you? Like trying to find the like what he really enjoys versus what might potentially make him money and help support himself. Because there's obviously tons of hobbies that you're like, yeah, this isn't gonna make you money ever, man. We can see where it might lead.
So I actually think this is a hard question because right now we're in a transition period of AI taking over and it's becoming much better and much smarter and much faster at doing things. And I really don't know what a typical role will look like by the time my son's ready to be at a company working somewhere. And I also don't know what jobs will be available. We're in that stage where, at least at my company where I work at, we're seeing AI take over a lot of the easy tasks. And then we find ourselves now with more time to do on some of the things that we never had a chance to do because we were so busy. And it just facilitates a lot of things. And then you also see how fast development is going with AI and things are getting produced so fast. I use AI to edit this podcast and all these tools that are out there that are just making it so much easier now for anyone to do anything. So for me, it would be important for my son to be on the side of like, I know how to use AI and then also consider something that he'd want to do that maybe hopefully doesn't get affected by AI. Like he's initially he wanted to be a lawyer
Ugh.
and that was kind of like his plan for like at least 5 years. We were talking about it. Now it's kind of changed and he's really into dancing and he's really into cooking.
Okay.
So, I have no problem with him wanting to be a chef or even wanting to be a dancer. I mean, he even choreographed some dances and stuff for
Wow, that's
school.
cool.
So, like, if that's what he's into, I've always been the type of person who's like, you know what, do whatever makes you happy, and I'm gonna help you as long as I can. But I think these years, he's gonna be 16. These are the years he's supposed to fail. He's supposed to make mistakes and learn, and these are the years I can help him right now, right? But I don't want it to be like when he's 30 and still living with me, hopefully not. But, I don't want it to be then when we're like, "All right, we tried all this. We gotta do something else now." Right? So,
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes
just
sense.
navigating the AI world right now, it's been a little bit it's been fun, to see what we can do, but also a little eye opening on like, oh shit, we're getting some places really quick, and who knows if they're gonna need me at some point.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's been eye opening for sure.
yeah. No, I agree. I mean, even in my industry, like, yeah, I mean, AI is inevitable at this point, right? And whatever that looks like, whether that's just more LLMs, or if it's, I have a feeling AI is gonna. I think the LLM phase of AI is probably sort of a fad, not in the sense that of its usefulness to humans, but AI is meant for so much more. You know what I mean? Like LLMs and ChatGPT and Claude and Perplexity and all these others, they're all just the very top layer of what AI is going to be. And so I think in a way it's kind of scary, right? Because you've got people who, I mean, yeah, young people, like you're like in the perfect time for a new economy to be blooming, but you're also in like the worst time in the sense of like who knows what direction you should actually go, right? Like people used to be like, "Oh, get a computer science major. We need coders," and now it's like, well, Claude is like replacing like 90% of coding, and it's like, so who knows? So it's a little scary, I would imagine, for young people, and it's exciting at the same time. It's the new tech boom. It's the new .com era. It's the new internet type vibe. So it's cool, but I'm sure there's a little anxiety that comes with that for someone like your son as well.
Yeah, 100%, man. But to bring it back to sports, live events, those things I think are going to be more powerful moving forward because they're real, they're happening now, and people are going to want authenticity. And when it comes to being a sports writer, you kind of touched on this a little bit briefly, but talk to me about the hard parts, about the being criticized online, the being clowned on, negative comments. I just recently had my share of one negative comment, first one ever on TikTok on a post that I shared. And it's just interesting to me because they really felt like they had to say that. And in my mind, I'm just thinking, man, dude, I'm trying to spread love here. And you're like making this hard. But, you know, what can you talk to me about? And you're such in the public eye, essentially, because it isn't, your job is not like mine where it's just my company, maybe that industry. Yours is like, you could come out on the local news one day and be highlighted there. So talk to me a little bit about how that feels, and I don't know how you present yourself and how you carry yourself and how that affects how you talk when you're like obviously being watched.
Yeah, yeah, it's tough because I don't think the negative comments or anything like that have really affected how I talk too much. Maybe a little subconsciously, right? Because we're all human at the end of the day, and you don't ever want to have another human saying things to you that are mean or evil or threatening or whatever. But at the same time, like you said, or like you kind of alluded to, it's usually those people have bigger issues that they're dealing with themselves internally, right? Like someone felt the need to say something vile to you on a post or whatever, and it's like that's a them problem, that's not a you problem. But
Yeah.
it's hard to ignore, when you're getting sometimes hundreds of them on a post or something, and it's like mostly all just clowning you, and maybe sometimes it's even for you deserve to be clowned a little bit. It can sometimes still get to like some of you just have to turn off, you have to delete the app or turn off notifications because it's all coming in so much. But I wouldn't necessarily call that the hard part necessarily. I think the hard part is just battling yourself, right? Because it's in, I guess, one way similar to being an athlete in the sense that you're kind of just battling against yourself every day. Like whether you're writing or like yourself, whether you're putting out a podcast every day or whether you're going on live TV every day, you have to show up yourself and make adjustments and improvements on the fly yourself and then perform when you're called upon. And that can be demoralizing sometimes. Maybe you're on a bad streak and you're trying to get out of the funk, but you just can't really do it. That can sometimes be tough, or you're just, I'm a beat writer for baseball and basketball. So you go through the whole season with this team. And sometimes the team might not be doing well and you might not be doing well, right? Like you're asking bad questions, you're not picking up on the nuances of this team that other writers are, things like that. Or maybe you're not getting the interviews that other people are getting. I think that sometimes can be the tough part in this business. And just, showing up every day, putting your best foot forward is always the most important thing, which I feel like is true for any career. But this one in particular, just kind of start new, fresh every day with kind of a clean slate.
I know a little bit about, you mentioned right now about how you don't get to interview or you don't get certain interviews. When you are trying to establish a name for yourself, what does it mean to not be able to make that interview or not be in that room? What does that feel like, essentially, to see your peers maybe go past you or like pass you over, or they get included but you don't?
Yeah, I mean, it's never fun, right? Because the way that the sports media landscape still functions, and it's changing a little bit with social media and stuff, but in general, it still kind of operates, the same way. Like you have journalists who are with accredited outlets that get credentials, and so you're credentialed usually through your outlet. Then by a byproduct, you're credentialed yourself. And there's obviously tiers to that, right? Like there aren't official tiers necessarily, but there's tiers to it, right? Like the publications I write for aren't getting the same number of eyeballs as ESPN and don't have the same status as ESPN, or the Athletic or publications like that in sports. And so sometimes that can be frustrating because maybe you as an individual, as a journalist, as a reporter, you feel like you've got the right angle and you feel like you have the exact thing that it takes to really take a story with this individual and kind of take it to the next level, right? Or really get something unique out of someone or a situation that maybe others aren't. And sometimes just due to the nature of the business, not everyone can get the interviews. Not everyone can have the same access at the same times to all the same players and all the same people. Sometimes maybe due to some of those circumstances, you unfortunately pass by and one of the larger outlets will get the interview or one of the larger outlets will get the scoop or whatever. And so, yeah, I mean, that can be demoralizing sometimes. And sometimes you can maybe feel like it's kind of like the cards are stacked against you and you're kind of fighting two battles at once, like overcoming your status while also, if you were to get the interview, having to put great work out, maybe even better work than someone else because you're trying to make your name for yourself. And so that can be tough. But at the end of the day, you can only control what you can control, right? And so that means what I do have and the opportunities that I do get, maximize them to their best potential. And I'm a firm believer that if you do that and you put good work out and you are consistent in it, you'll get more opportunities. And that's generally how it works. Not always, but that's generally how it works.
Yeah. When you do you kick yourself and you like think of a question later after the
Yeah.
fact and you're like, oh, I should have asked this?
Oh, for sure. I mean, and I'm not on ESPN, so like most people would never even see this, even people who might follow my work or whatever, or friends. But I make so many mistakes throughout the season. I mean, it's comical because I mean, this was a particularly rough training camp for me for the Sacramento Kings. It was like the first week of the training camp, and DeMar DeRozan is on the Sacramento Kings right now. And we're at practices, we're watching, and then there's usually a press scrum like after the practices. And two in a row, I'm trying to ask DeMar a question in the scrum, and I cut his answer off to the previous question twice in 2 days in a row. So it's not like because it happens, right? There's a lot of people. Sometimes it's loud. You're like trying to hear when they're done talking. Sometimes you accidentally talk right, before they're done talking. You maybe don't have a good angle at their mouth. You can't quite see like if they're done talking. And I cut him off twice, and it was just like one of those. I'm still getting clowned on it to this day because it was genuinely hilarious. And like the second time, he's like, "Look at me, like, what are you doing?" And it's just stuff like that, though. You have to move past it, right? Like you
Yeah.
apologize in the moment or whatever, but at the end of the day, you just have to move past it because everyone makes mistakes. DeMar might miss a free throw that night. The news reporter or the TV anchor might mess up a name or something. Everyone's making mistakes all the time. And generally people aren't seeing them, which I think is something that everyone needs to think about a little harder. A lot of times when you make a mistake, you think everyone in the world is looking at you. And a
Yeah.
lot of times no one is. Sometimes people are, and you'll get clowned a little bit and you'll get called out for it. But most of the time, no one cares and no one's looking at your mistake. And I think just remembering that and having the confidence just to move on and just ask a better question the next time, or, you know, do whatever you need to do to double down on excellent the next time you have an opportunity is important. But yeah, I make mistakes all the time, questions, and I'm like, oh, I should have really asked that, or oh, I definitely should not have asked that. You know, all the time, all the time.
You also have a podcast, Section 105,
Yeah.
and I am curious, how do you deal with bad takes that you guys make? I've heard some horrible takes.
I've never made a bad take in my life, Hugo. I don't know what you're talking about.
That's not true.
I mean, honestly, I'm a little bit. It's tough balancing because I in my one half wants to be like objective news reporter or journalist, because that is a big part of what I really enjoy in sports is being a journalist, getting the stories, reporting the facts, not putting a lot of spin on it. But then yeah, and like the podcast, like Section 105, it's more of like a creative outlet, more of a takes first, more of a, you know, say something exploratory and see how you and my co-host Mark Haynes, how we might come to a conclusion on it. And yeah, I've had some bad takes. I mean, I don't there's too many to count at this point. I've had some. I don't know if you know, have any on the top of your head, but I've certainly had quite a few.
I was thinking about saving some and playing them here.
Oh, that would be tough. That would be tough.
But
That
I
would
was
have been
like,
great.
nah, that's not what my show's
That
about.
would have been great, but that would have been tough. I mean, I think there's just so many. I said like there was no chance Boston was going to win the chip the year they won the chip.
Yeah.
I think I said some crazy stuff about OKC at one point. I'm pretty like accurately been labeled and dismissed as a Boston Celtics hater, which is pretty accurate at this point.
Yeah.
You know, there's just things, there's takes, and but I think it's authenticity, right? Like you want to be authentic with your viewers and the people that are watching the program. And a lot of it is just, you know, comes from the heart. It's like whatever it is, sometimes, you know, sometimes you're just a player you don't love and you don't really necessarily know why. And
Yeah.
while that's not going to influence my journalistic work, I'm not going to write a bad piece about a player just because I have a vibe off with them or whatever. When you're talking more on like takes and on a podcast, sometimes that comes out a little bit more, you know, when you're hoping some guy wins MVP or the other or whatever. But
Yeah.
yeah,
No, I get it. I'm totally biased for my Lakers, but
tough,
just another.
time for them. Tough time for them.
I know it is. We don't know. Maybe if I don't know. We'll talk about that later. You also have a tradition. I don't know if it's the Kings Stadium. I think where you take a shot.
That's right.
It's to a recycle container, and you film your misses. You film your makes, and you know it seems like even some of the staff now is involved,
Yeah.
or they know about it. Tell me a little bit about that and what your streak is currently for the season.
Yeah, so the season's over, and I wasn't as diligent with it this last season as I was the season prior, but we'll probably bring it back more regularly next year again. Yeah, I mean, the where I sit, where the press sits in Sacramento is kind of right at the top of one of the lower bowl sections, which is kind of kitty corner to the or adjacent to our media elevator that takes us downstairs. And right at the top is like where we walk in, and there's like a bar cart right there every game, and my boy Jason mans the bar cart. And I don't even know. He works at the baseball stadium as well. So I think I met him there originally. Then I saw he was doing the bartending at this bar cart next to my section. And yeah, I'm very personable with people. I like to be. You know, sometimes I might not be if I'm busy or come off a little cold one day here or there. But in general, I try to treat people the same, whether they're a security guard or whether they're a bartender or whether they're one of the like concierge staff at the stadium or they're a player or they're a coach or they're a GM or an agent or another reporter. I'm trying to treat everyone the same, right? So like I want to get to know your name. I want to, you know, understand what you do. I want to, you know, get to know you on a first if we're coworkers in the sense that we're going to see each other a lot,
Yeah.
even if we're not working in the same thing, you know, I want to be respectful. I want to, you know, I want to know who you are. So when I see you, I want to say, "Hey Jason, what's up?" or, you know, "Hey David," or, you know, whoever it is. Um I think that's just kind of how that started. And he would always, I think I just like walked past one day and like threw a bottle of water, like tried to throw it in the trash can and I missed or something. And he like gave me a bunch of crap for it. He was like, that was tough. You know, that's not a great effort there. And I'm like, okay. And so like I just started like now, like usually every third quarter, I'll go over there and I'll just take my empty water bottle or trash or whatever from that game and I'll just well, yeah, we'll film it. I'll take about 10 feet away. I'll do a little step back, a little hezzy, and see where it ends up. And Jason watches and he gives his input as I miss or make or whatever. And I was well over 50% the last season. So that was good. And then I like to have a little fun with it on social media, talk myself up a little bit, clown around a little bit. But yeah, that's fun. And I think that's just my personality. It's kind of how I like to live my life. Nothing is that serious, like there are certainly serious topics in life, and a Kings game on a Thursday night with the fans and the bartender is not necessarily a moment where you have to be all stern and no nonsense. So just like I like to have fun. I at the end of the day, I like to have fun. I like to have fun with other people, and I think that's just kind of how that was born originally.
Yeah. Not to get this too serious of a topic, but there was something that happened this last baseball season, not this season, but the one before. So that I want
How many times did this particular event happen, Hugo?
I think this story is going to haunt you for a long time. I just wanted to bring it up because I don't know. I would consider this an experience that I would say is fun because it didn't happen to me because I'm watching it. I'm watching it to the outside. But there was a scenario this year. Maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong here. But there was a game you were at, made it to the local news.
It did. It
I think
definitely
you
did.
know which game I'm talking about, where the A's hit a foul ball and it went directly to you and you weren't able to catch it. And then as if lightning was like, "Hey, we don't strike twice. Psych, we're going to do it again." It happened again, and again you didn't catch it. How does it feel to be called out on your local news by the reporters and by name? They said your full name, dude. They didn't even
Yeah.
nothing. It was just Jeremiah Salmonson.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's so yeah, that is a true story. Is fact check true. Snopes or whatever certified, fact check true. So there's a little nuance to the story. So it did happen twice in one game. It did. But it happened one of the times it was like, was that even catchable? It was like close to my grasp. But throughout the season, yeah, it happened 3 times. So it actually happened 3 separate games. This one was, yeah, particularly egregious. So my friend Jake Gaden, who works for a local station, was, DM. He's like, oh, this is going to be great. And I had no idea what he was doing. And then, yeah, he cooks it up on a newscast that night and puts it all out there. But I mean, yeah, that's tough. I mean, Dallas Braden, too, legend Oakland Athletics pitcher. He's in on it now, too, because he's caught the only opportunity he's had to catch one so far. He had one opportunity last year and he caught it. And I sit like maybe 50 feet away from him in the press box. And if I look to my left, he looks to his right. We're both like, we're just staring at each other. And so now he's on me. And he was on the telecast when I missed the one last year. And he's like, if you edit this, you can play the clip. But he's like, he says something like pathetic performance, low effort, like just disgraceful. Like he's just cooking me. And I've got like reporters like giving me a back massage at this point, like trying to bring my spirits up. I'm just sitting there, the hands in my face, because it happened 3 separate times, which is tough. And I'm convinced I've been putting a lot of work in the off season. I'm convinced that I will catch one this season because statistics would say I'll probably have another 3 chances this year or so, because I go to, I'm at every game and I'm in the same spot this year as I was last year. So I'll probably have more opportunities, and all I can do is try to catch the next one. And it's tough, man. Those are coming in hot. They've got spin on them because of the angle. They have to come over the fence and fall into my section. They're really hot, lots of spin, but I got to catch one. That is the bottom line, is I have to be better and I have to catch one. And at the end of the day, that is what it is. I got to catch one, and I'm hoping to this season, but it's tough. And so, yeah, it was all over the news. I think they put it on like the Good Morning Sacramento show the next morning too. It was just getting clowned on. It's tough. I mean, yeah, the NBC sports cameras panned over to me and like looking in despair, But yeah, it was tough. It was a tough scene. Tough scene.
I think you're a good sport. Hopefully I could share a clip with that right now with editing and stuff. I'll probably play the clip.
Character kind of born more shows.
3-2 payoff pitch is punched back foul.
Embarrassing. An embarrassing effort up here in our auxiliary booth. Just poor. Poor to quite poor, if I'm being honest.
Maybe another chance. Just above the auxiliary booth. Could you imagine 2 in a row?
Oh, he knows it too. He knows it.
I mean, Manolo in the back.
3-2, lace to left on the.
Embarrassing. An embarrassing effort up here in our auxiliary booth. Just poor. Poor to quite poor, if I'm being honest.
Finally, Tony, there's a reason sports reporters do what they do. Truly, they're just not good enough to play at the highest level, so the next best thing they do is cover the team. Well, that was on full display when fellow Sacramento sports reporter Jeremiah Salmonson dropped not 1, not 2, but 3 foul balls during Saturday's A's game. His reaction
says it all.
Says it all.
Well, first of all, what are the odds that 3 foul balls we threw would be hit in his direction?
I just can't believe that he did that. God.
Well, he didn't have a glove. He was probably busy working. You know? I mean, there's a lot. I can make excuses.
I just think.
Look at the guy behind him. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. You won't make the news. Jake won't talk about you on Primetime Sacramento. No worries.
Manello in the back right there just chilling, watching the game. That's the best part.
Hey.
Pictures says 1,000 words.
But yeah, it was fun to watch, and I had a good laugh. But now I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about spirituality and how that shifts towards what you do and how you use it to, like, when I do this podcast, for example, I kind of like have my little prayer that I do in my head, and I'm like, hey, dear universe, use me as a vessel right now to kind of deliver the best questions for Jeremiah, the best messages that I can give to people listening to this and whatnot. Do you have a routine that you go through to kind of think about or clear your mind? I would imagine that before, like, I don't necessarily get starstruck, but I would imagine when you're meeting like these like really high level players who are playing for the team that you're a fan of, there's got to be a little bit of focus so that you don't get distracted and lose yourself to that moment and actually stay present and do what you're there for. So do you have a routine or something that clears your mind so that you can stay present and ask the right questions?
Yeah, so I'm a Christian, and so that's like my overarching faith and belief system and my spirituality, as you put it. So I'm a Christian. And so I have my religious practices in Christianity that I observe, and those are daily or whatever. But like in the moment before I interview someone, maybe I will have had a prayer earlier in the day or something like that about the overarching event. In the moment itself, I'm not necessarily doing a meditation or anything like that, but I do kind of have this like breathing exercise I do, which I find is helpful for me because I mean, I was definitely starstruck early on in my career, right? Like you see these athletes. I remember the first time I talked to LeBron James, it was like, what am I doing talking to LeBron James?
I love this kid.
Exactly. I'm just some kid who started some radio show and now writes a little bit about sports. And I'm talking to this billionaire, greatest basketball player of all time, potentially, LeBron James. And so certainly there was some starstruckness about that. I'm less so now because I've kind of been through it many, many times that it's really not starstruck anymore. It's more just when you're in front of these guys, like you want to be professional. You want to put your best foot forward, right? Like you want to take it seriously because it's their job. They take it seriously. You have an important opportunity to speak with them. I mean, not normal people, the public just can't normally ask LeBron James a question or whoever a question, more so now with social media. But so I kind of have this routine where I just think about whatever topic that I'm about to ask about. I think like very specifically about the details, and I think about what I'm trying to get from the person. So if I'm asking an athlete about a game, I'm thinking about what I want to get from them, whether that's like how they were feeling in a moment or what they were feeling before they took a shot or before they threw a pitch. I'm thinking about what I want to get from them. And then I try to take a couple deep breaths because that just calms the whole, nervous system down. And so that's kind of my like pre-question routine. It's just like fixate on what I'm actually trying to get from a question I'm about to ask or an interview I'm about to do. I'll take a couple deep breaths.
Yeah.
And then usually it's my turn and you fire right away. And so that's like, it's not like a spiritual experience when I'm doing that. It's more of almost like a physiological experience, right? Just like trying to calm everything down.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, as a Christian with my overarching, beliefs and practices, yeah, certainly like throughout the day and at different moments, you're praying for wisdom or you're praying for whatever it might be in a given moment. So yeah, definitely.
Okay. Let's talk about all the stuff you do, because we haven't really touched on we briefly mentioned your podcast, right? Section 105. You also are a journalist for those teams that you've mentioned earlier.
Mhm.
Sacramento Kings being probably the one that I see you focused on the most, I believe.
Yeah,
And that you also sell collectibles, right? Like
true.
trader cards and talk
Pokemon
to
too
me.
now.
Pokemon too. It's getting hot right now.
Yeah, definitely.
So talk to me about those things that you're doing currently and how you balance it all, and where do you like here? I mean, you've always been one of the busiest people I know. You're always traveling and you do this wheels up thing and wheels down thing. You're known as the wheels up guy by some people. So where do you find yourself like struggling to balance things, and then what do you do to decide what gets more energy out of you, depending on like what you want?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a great question because, yeah, I am very, very, very busy and there's not a lot of just downtime. So it's almost kind of rarity and like a cherished moment when I have just a day at home, right? And I have nothing to do, no work to do. Typically, I've tried to keep those days to Sunday, as a day of rest in Christianity. Sometimes though, just stuff happens and I have to work, right? And that happens more often than I probably care to admit. So I try to take Sundays when I can. But yeah, I mean, stuff gets prioritized. And I think historically work has always come first. I think it's almost a little bit of an obsession and probably not in a great way. And I think that's something I've been learning more about as I've gotten a little bit older, is some of the other aspects of your life should be prioritized at times as well, or, maybe at a certain baseline level all the time. And so, yeah, I mean, that's definitely, I would say, probably the biggest struggle of anyone doing this type of work or whatever. It's late nights, like last night I left for the ballpark in, the early afternoon, and I was there till almost 1 a.m. And I got back, went to bed, got up this morning, had some early meetings I had to do and worked all day. And that cycle just kind of repeats. And when you're doing multiple sports, you don't really have an off season. Basketball goes from October to April, and from April to October is baseball. Hockey's also in the wintertime, which I also cover the San Jose Sharks and some hockey, a little bit of golf here and there sometimes. So, there's really no off season, but I try to balance it as best I can. And I think that's probably the most needing, the most biggest thing in my life that could use a little bit of work. You know what I mean? It's like actually trying to balance it out because you get a little burnt out sometimes. And so I wouldn't say I do a great job balancing it, to be honest with you. I usually I'm kind of just nose to the grindstone. And eventually, that's caught up with me at other points in my life, where you kind of just like, you're going on a few hours of sleep for multiple days in a row and you kind of just crash.
No.
It's definitely caught up to me, but it's something I'm trying to hone in on more now. And I think a lot of that comes with like good eating too. Like that's a big thing I'm trying to focus on this year, is like, since I'm so busy and since it's such late nights and I'm not home at night to cook dinner or whatever, just like having some things in place where I can be efficient, cost effective, and also eat good food instead of like crap at 1 a.m. or stuff like that. I think that's the biggest thing I'm honing in on, like routine wise, is because when you feed yourself good food, you have better fuel, your mind feels better, your body feels better, and you can be even more productive in the things you're doing. So yeah, I mean, to give the honest take is it's hard to balance, and I haven't done a great job historically, but we're trying new things every single day, Hugo, and we'll see. Maybe it's going to take a trip out here to Northern California for you to really help me dial these things in. The master Hugo of prioritization.
I could try, man. I could try. I would love. I've been saying I've been wanting to go visit you forever. Derek, who you know as well, has been trying to plan a trip out there with me. Going, he is a big Niner fan,
Yes.
and he wants to go to San Fran games. So hopefully we can make it happen. Now, when it comes to your time division and splitting things up and working on different projects, what do these projects cost you versus what you get in return? And why do you think, what do you think is gonna, what makes it work for you right now, essentially?
That's a great question. That's a great question. A little cost benefit analysis on the fly here. Yeah, I mean, so obviously money is one thing, right? That you get from the work. So whether it's the sports and collectibles business that I do with a business partner of mine, whether it's the sports journalism, whether it's some of the consulting that I do on the side as well, all of it, at the end of the day, like if it's not making you any money, it's hard to justify it in America in 2026 because especially in California, it's expensive to live. So unless you're just like independently wealthy, like you can't be spending a ton of time on things that don't make you any money, right? So money is obviously a part of it, right? Like doing any business venture, any work, there's a certain element of that you do it for money. So that's a part of it. But I would say it's definitely the smaller part on the things that I work on. I've there's that cliche saying or whatever, do what you love, don't work a day in your life or whatever. That's definitely not true. Like I'm doing what I love for sure, but it's still work, like when my head hits the pillow at 2 a.m. and I have to do it all over again the next day, like it's definitely work, but it's that cliche or that saying is definitely true in part of like, it doesn't feel like the same. Like, it's not like I'm out here having to, to grind on a construction site or something. And I don't even like construction, like there's certainly like levels to like oh, this is just work versus this is work I enjoy. And so I've tried to the overarching theme is just do work that I enjoy because I think life is short. I think a lot of times out of necessity, people will, maybe get married or have a kid or have kids or whatever, and they kind of get stuck in a job that they hate, or maybe they didn't get married, maybe they don't have kids, but they just feel stuck in a job because they have a mortgage now, or they have rent, or they have, car payments, or they have whatever.
Yeah.
And I've just tried to avoid that. And I don't think I've avoided it entirely my whole life. And there's just a certain amount of like, you just have to do certain things because that's what will provide at the time. And there's no form of work that isn't dignified, in my opinion. Like if you're out working, providing for yourself or a family or whatever, like that is all commendable. It doesn't matter what, the work is necessarily, like, especially as men, like it's a big part of our role in society. I feel like is having to work and work hard.
Yeah.
Because that's just the role we have. And so I think men don't get enough credit sometimes for the hard work that they put in, whether it's you or me or any guy out there who's working 60-hour weeks or more and doesn't maybe get a lot of love for it. Like you're appreciated by, if no one else, by me. I see the hard work that you're putting in and it will pay off to something. And I think it's good that people still work hard. And I think that while we have plenty of issues with our society and things of that nature, I think hard work definitely does pay off still. And if you can put that energy towards something you enjoy, like I understand there's a baseline for survival, but if you can find something that you actually enjoy, maybe it's not your hobby, but if you find something that actually gives you fulfillment in your work, do that over doing something else if you can. That would be my advice to someone, maybe, just doing what they need to do to get by. And it's, and that's kind of like, to get back to your question, that's kind of like my overarching belief system is I just try to do as much of the percentage of my work that I enjoy out of, like, there's 100% of the amount of work I do. And I at least try to do 80 or 75% of it of something I really enjoy. And sometimes you just have to do something you don't love. And that is what it is.
For sure, man. Thanks for for answering that. I have one question that I'm going to ask you, but it's generated through an app that I built. Hold on one
Is that your
second.
Claude app? I've heard about this Claude app.
Yeah, dude.
I watched the episodes, Hugo. By the way, like, comment, subscribe on this. The Soul Meets Heart show. Give my
Appreciate
boy
that.
Hugo some love down there. Dropping new episodes all the time, and it's fire. And I watch the episodes, Hugo, so I know about this Claude agent or whatever you're about to pull.
Yeah. So, if you're a first-time listener, there is a question that I'm going to ask Jeremiah, and I also will have a emotion that is tied to the question, and Jeremiah will have to answer based off that emotion, if that makes sense.
I'm just gonna be honest, this is the part of the conversation I have been dreading the most. Like,
Really?
I don't know what emotion you're gonna throw at me and what this question is gonna be, but who knows? It's just like it's Pandora's box of opportunities. So this is certainly the most mysterious part of this episode. I do think it's a cool concept though, but I'm a little worried you're gonna give me some crazy emotion and I'm gonna have to do deep into the recesses of my brain to figure it out.
I'm actually kind of curious about your response to this question, actually.
Oh boy, here we go. I knew it.
So, what's a conspiracy theory about your industry that you actually kind of believe? And then the emotion that you have to tie it to is rebuilding or resilience.
Ooh, okay. This is a really interesting one. This is really, and all on the fly, nothing scripted. So
Nothing scripted. It was auto-generated by AI.
yeah. So what is a conspiracy theory in my industry that I kind of believe? I will preface this by saying I don't believe any conspiracy theories because I think the moment a conspiracy theory has any evidence, it just then moves into the fact category, like, or it moves into the totally false category. Like people say the moon landing didn't happen. And it's like, okay, well, that's a conspiracy theory for a moment. And then you realize, oh, there's reflectors on the moon that we put there when we went there before. You can see them with the telescope. So it immediately goes into this is just not a good theory anymore. It's just false, If there's a conspiracy theory in the league that I think has any sort of credence or should be given any sort of thought, it is that officiating in the National Basketball Association is a little bit rigged towards star players. And I don't think that this is necessarily, I guess it is a conspiracy theory because if you ask officials or officiating executives, they'll tell you absolutely not. If it's a foul, it gets called. If it's not a foul, it doesn't get called. Yeah. And I'm not saying like you have individual referees out here like doing things on purpose to like shift games or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I think if you watch the league enough, you'll see that there's, we kind of have a name for it now. It's called the star whistle. Like if you're LeBron James or you're Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or you're Joel Embiid, you're getting calls that Daquan Plowden, who plays here in Sacramento, or DeAndre Ayton in Los Angeles just aren't getting, And it's hard to not think of that a little bit as a conspiracy because it's like, well, you tell me if you see the contact, you call it. So why is there like a different threshold of contact or maybe egregiousness if this guy makes more money, has more, championships under his belt,
Sure,
has been an all-star more times? Like, did you have like contact lenses that are like, oh, he's an 8-time champion, I gotta like, this is a foul, but this isn't on, And I think but then you have a guy like Steph Curry, who is a star. He's the best shooter basketball's ever seen, but he doesn't get the same star whistle that other stars get. So you have like star Steph Curry, star Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and like very big differences in the star whistle that they get. And so I think that's a little bit of something. It's like, is it just like in the moment these referees are like, oh, like what is really going through their mind? And I would love to interview some of these referees and like kind of get into the brass tacks with them. I don't think that's really possible because referees would really never speak on this subject unless they're retired, because anything they say is going to be taken out of context and anything they say could be used by the league to do something to them. So, but that's one that I maybe kind of believe a little bit. It's just like the discrepancy in officiating to me feels like a little bit of some sort of conspiracy. Again, it's not something I would like say I believe for sure. He's got a little something to think about there, a little something to look at,
I thought you were gonna bring up like Polymarket or Kalshi.
Well, yeah, I mean,
I forget which basketball player. I forget who it was.
Jonte Porter got.
There was one in particular that you just see him fumble the ball.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
I think it was James Harden,
Yeah.
where he just like throws it away or
Yeah.
completely fumbles it in a way that you know that they did that on purpose. It's just funny to me. But
I mean, it's definitely a discussion. Like you're hearing guys now talk more about like knowing what these lines are and knowing what these overs are and knowing what these unders are. It's like, well, if it's, I mean, sometimes it's shown on the broadcast, you know, like the over under for this game is like on the television broadcast. It's like, how do these guys not see it at that point, you know? And but I think there's still a lot of integrity in that aspects left in sports, and I think most of the things people call fishy is really just the odds makers in Vegas have gotten really good at knowing how stuff's gonna end up because the stats usually will tell the story, and I think that's most of it. But who knows? Maybe something for one of these conspiracy tinfoil hat guys to dive into. You know,
that's pretty wild. Like that person who got a perfect March Madness or whatever.
yeah,
That was wild. That was
how
crazy.
I don't know. I've been trying to. I don't know if you know what this is. It's called Beat the Streak, which, by the way, not sponsored. But if Major League Baseball wants to sponsor Soul Meets Heart, I'm sure Hugo would take the sponsorship.
Would love
It's
it.
free
Yeah.
to play. You can just on the MLB app, Bad app. It's called Beat the Streak, and if you can get a streak of 57 correct in a row, you win $5.7 million. And just every day, you just pick a guy to get a hit. At anyone in baseball, just get a hit. So it could be Mike Trout, it could be Aaron Judge, it could be Shohei Ohtani, it could be Mookie Betts. Just pick one or two guys every day. You can double down and pick two a day, or you can just pick one every day. And if you get 57 correct in a row, you'll win the money. No one's ever done it. It's been around for years. So, yeah, it's kind of fun. Kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, if it's free, it's worth a shot, right?
Absolutely free. You just got to download the baseball app, you know?
There you go. Well, Jeremiah, I'm hoping that that question wasn't so dreadful that you were dreading it the whole time.
No, and I didn't tie it too well to rebuild and resilience, but maybe the tie in there is these players have to be resilient when they're not getting the calls. You know, like it's definitely a frustration you see on their faces all the time. It's like frustration and just exasperation at the fact that they're not getting a call they think is clear. So there's the tie into resilience and rebuilding. But
there you go. You snuck it in there.
Good question. It was a good question. Definitely wasn't as dreadful as I thought it would be. Good question by you. Or by Claude, your agent.
Thank you, Claude. So where can people find you? Where can they see your stories? Where can they, catch up on what you're working on and check you out or check out your articles and whatnot?
Yeah. So it's I'm Jeremiah Salmonson on X. So I post a lot of my happenings there. If you're an A's fan or a Kings fan and want to follow along on some reporting, you can find me there. The Section 105 podcast with my co-host Mark Haynes, that's on YouTube. We're trying to build that up, so you can check that out. We're probably putting an episode out every couple of weeks, every month during the off season, but during the season we try to put them out every week, and we might be doing even more next year. And then, I also write on SRS.com, so sportsradioservice.com. You can find my work there. It's linked on my X handle, but that's where you'll find my writing about the Kings and the A's and stuff like that. That's where I do my writing. So those are the main spots you can do it. And, who knows? Maybe I'll pop up another channel here soon for some more content. You never know when I'm going to pop up. So, but I really appreciate you letting me plug my work there, Hugo, and just having me on in general. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, of course, bro. I appreciate you coming on and would love to see where things are going for you. And obviously I'm going to be rooting for you the whole time and appreciate you joining. For those of you who joined us, just want to thank you for being here. Don't lose faith, lose fear, peace, and let your heart be light. I'll see you guys. And now I can end it. There we go.